Good morning, brothers and sisters. Today I'm going to be covering Jude 12 through 13. These are spots in your love feasts, while they feast with you without fear, serving only themselves. They are clouds without water, carried about by the winds, late autumn trees without fruit, twice dead, pulled up by the roots. Raging waves of the sea, foaming up their own shame. Wandering stars, for whom is reserved the blackness of darkness forever. William Barclay translates these verses as follows, quote, "These people are hidden rocks which threaten to wreck your love feasts. These are the people who at your feasts revel with their own cliques without a qualm. They have no feeling of responsibility to anyone except themselves. They are clouds which drop no water, but are blown past the wind. They are fruitless trees in autumn's harvest time, twice dead and torn up by the roots." These men were no longer mere blots, but elements of danger and wreck. The word was used of rocks covered by water and thus hidden. Feasts of charity is agape, the word for God's love. It was used of the love feasts in the early Christian church, a fellowship meal eaten by the Christians when they came together for worship. It was eaten at the local church, which in the first century always was in a person's home. There were no church edifices until much later. The tragedy is that members of the assembly, which Jude is addressing, did not realize the true character of these men. They thought these men were spiritual. They feast with you without fear, serving only themselves. These hypocrites have crept into the fellowship that consisted of mutual sharing of food and love, and probably the celebration of the Lord's Supper, though not everyone agrees this was the integral part, as if they had a part of the true flock of God and without any holy reverential fear of God. These men insisted on participating in these love feasts, not to express mutual love and concern, but to gratify their own appetites. Jude is condemning their brazen self-indulgence, revealing their true character. Williams remarks, quote, "Satan had been found among the sons of God before this, and such intrusions have not yet ceased. I know that after my departure, savage wolves will come in among you, not sparing the flock, and from among your own selves men will arise, speaking perverse things to draw away the disciples after them. Therefore be on the alert, remembering that night and day for a period of 3 years I did not cease to admonish each one with tears." Acts 20:29 through 31. The second characteristic of these apostates is they are clouds without water, carried about by the winds. We've all seen the sky darken up with the billowy, dark, water-laden thunderclouds and prepared for the sure shower of refreshing rain, only to have it pass by, yielding no rain, and for desperate farmers, no crop. These apostates have an air of authenticity about themselves, offering hope to the church that they can bring needed spiritual rain, but in fact they cannot. They are like the false teachers Peter describes, quote, "promising freedom while they themselves are slaves of corruption." 2 Peter 2:19. Their promise of liberty only yields bondage. Peter characterized these false teachers as springs without water instead of clouds without water. 2 Peter 2:17. In Proverbs 25, verse 14, we read, "Like clouds and wind without rain is a man who boasts of his gifts falsely." The third characteristic is late autumn trees without fruit, twice dead, pulled up by the roots. Now, the adjective, which appears only here in the New Testament, is commonly understood to denote a time of late autumn at the very end of the fruit harvest. then the meaning is that these trees without fruit at that season demonstrate their unproductive nature. They have failed to fulfill the purpose of their existence. The thrust of this metaphor is that these apostates totally lack productivity for themselves or towards others in the spiritual realm. They may teach or preach, but they have nothing to give. And not only are they fruitless, but they are also rootless. They are unable to bear spiritual fruit because they are not genuine believers. They lack spiritual life because they lack spiritual roots, regardless of how eloquently or how often they themselves quote from the Bible. John MacArthur says, quote, "They are like trees that have come out of the ground, disconnected from the life-giving source of water and nutrients. As Jesus said of the Pharisees, 'Every plant which my heavenly Father did not plant shall be uprooted.'" The fourth characteristic is raging waves of the sea foaming up their own shame. Warren Wiersbe says Jude compared the apostates to raging waves of the sea, not because of their power, but because of their pride and arrogant speech. Their mouth speaks great swelling words, Jude 1:16. Like the swelling of the sea, they make a lot of noise, but what do they produce? Have you ever walked along the beach the morning after a storm and seen the ugly refuse that had been deposited on the shore? Jude may have had Isaiah 57 verse 20 in mind, but the wicked are like the troubled sea, when it cannot rest, whose waters cast up mire and dirt. All that the great swelling words of the apostates can produce is foam. Thayer says that these false teachers are impelled by their restless passions. They unblushingly exhibit in word and in deed their base and abandoned spirit. Lastly, they are like wandering stars for whom is reserved the blackness of darkness forever. Possibly referring to comets, which shine a while and then pass into darkness, they belong not to the system. They stray at random and without law, and must at last be severed from the lights which rule while they are ruled. This is a picture directly taken from the book of Enoch. In that book, the stars and the angels are sometimes identified, and there is a picture of that fate of the stars who, disobedient to God, left their appointed orbit and were destroyed. In his journey through the earth, Enoch came to a place where he saw neither a heaven nor a firmly founded earth, but a place chaotic and horrible. Warren Wiersbe again quotes, "God has reserved chains of darkness for the rebellious angels," Jude 6. "And he has reserved the blackness of darkness forever for apostate teachers. Beware of following a falling star. It will lead you into eternal blackness." The imagery of a star seems to fit the theme that Jude is developing. Stars were, of course, the guides to sailors at night, just as teachers were responsible to lead the flock through a benighted world. But false teachers, as wayward stars, are not fixed, and hence offer unreliable, even disastrous guidance. They are thus both the dangerous reefs on which the ships could be destroyed and the false guides, leading them into these rocks. There is a special irony that these lights will be snuffed out, reserved for the darkest depths of eternal darkness.